What is the secret of Muammar Gaddafi's successful rule? And how did he almost destroy all major central banks of the world? After World War II, Libya was ruled by King Idris I, who faced dissatisfaction in Libya due to economic underdevelopment, allegations of corruption, perceived ties to Western powers, a weak military, and social inequities. Muammar Gaddafi, only a lieutenant in the army, organized and led a smooth and bloodless coup in 1969 to overthrow King Idris I. People, unhappy with the king's rule, supported Gaddafi's promise of big changes. This event marked the start of Gaddafi's long leadership in Libya. Gaddafi implemented policies in Libya that aimed to address economic and educational aspects. In the early years of Gaddafi's rule, Libya experienced massive improvements. Libya has no electricity bill. Electricity came free of charge to all citizens. There were no interest rates on loans. The banks were state-owned, and the loans of citizens were 0% by law. Gaddafi promised not to buy a house for his parents until everyone in Libya owned a home. All newlywed couples in Libya received 60,000 dinars from the government, and because of that, they bought their own apartments and started their families. Education and medical treatment in Libya are free. Before Gaddafi, there were only 25% readers and 83% during his reign. If Libyans wanted to live on a farm, they would receive free household appliances, seeds, and livestock. If they cannot receive treatment in Libya, the state would fund them $2,300 in accommodation and travel for treatment abroad. If you buy a car, the government finances 50% of the price. The price of gasoline became 14 cents per liter. Libya had no external debt, and its reserves were $150 billion, now frozen worldwide. Since some Libyans can't find jobs after school, the government will pay the average salary when they can't find a job. Part of oil sales in Libya are directly linked to the bank accounts of all citizens. The mother who gave birth to the child will receive $5,000. 40 loaves of bread cost 15 cents. 25% of Libyans had all Ilisna diplomas. Gaddafi has implemented the world's biggest irrigation project, known as the Great Man Project, to ensure water availability in the desert. Gaddafi initially embraced Pan-Arabism, but later shifted focus to Pan-Africanism due to strained relations with Arab leaders, internal conflicts, and a priority on Libya's national interests. Gaddafi aimed for a united and self-reliant Africa, supporting initiatives for African cooperation to reduce reliance on the West. Pan-African economic goals include regional integration, resource mobilization, infrastructure development, diversified economies, intra-African trade, technology, poverty alleviation, financial cooperation, education, and political stability. These objectives seek to build a more integrated, self-sufficient, and prosperous Africa by leveraging collective resources and strengths. Before 2011, Libya had achieved economic independence with its own water, its own food, its own oil, its own money, and its own state-owned bank. It had arisen under Gaddafi from one of the poorest of countries to the richest in Africa. The creation of an independent hard currency in Africa would have allowed Africa to shake off the last heavy chains of colonial exploitation. As soon as Gaddafi started implementing his ideas about Pan-Africanism, things started to change. The Libyan civil war took place in 2011. It was a conflict that resulted in the overthrow of Muammar Gaddafi's regime. It began as part of the wider wave of protests and uprisings known as the Arab Spring. The initial demonstrations, allegedly involving the CIA, escalated Libya into a full-scale armed conflict between Gaddafi's loyalist forces and various opposition groups. The conflict involved NATO's intervention, with airstrikes aimed at protecting civilians and supporting the opposition forces. The rebels, consisting of diverse factions with differing goals, received international recognition and support. Gaddafi's government, however, resisted, leading to a protracted and violent struggle. The turning point came with the fall of key cities, including Tripoli. On October 20th, 2011, Muammar Gaddafi was brutally killed by Libyan rebels in his hometown of Sirte. But what is the true motivation behind Muammar Gaddafi's execution? Gaddafi, along with the other African heads of state, were about to bring into existence Africa's first central bank, intending to back currency with the continent's underground resources. What would that have done to the global economic order? The United States dollar, the British pound, the Canadian dollar, the EU's euro, and other major currencies are not backed by any natural resource. Claims suggest Gaddafi's plan for a central bank of Africa, backed by the continent's resources, could have disrupted global economic systems. Gaddafi's assassination was aimed to prevent a revolutionary move against modern slavery and neo-colonialism in Africa. Since Gaddafi's assassination, Libya has never recovered. The power vacuum led to political instability and the emergence of various factions vying for control. The country experienced ongoing conflicts between rival militias and struggled to establish a unified government. The situation is further complicated by the presence of extremist groups and the proliferation of arms. The lack of a stable government contributed to economic difficulties and affected the daily lives of the Libyan people. Efforts were made to reconcile different factions and establish a political framework, but progress was slow and hindered by continued violence. The post-Gaddafi era in Libya has been marked by a complex and evolving political landscape, with the country facing poverty, starvation, a lack of electricity, and further conflicts to this day.